Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Screen Sanctum. I'm Steve, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Quentin Tarantino said last week. I was traveling, I was in New York, saw some things on Twitter, and figured, why not do a video about it? Now, I want to preface this goes for more than just Quentin Tarantino, more than Martin Scorsese, more than whoever wants to comment on comic book movies. This goes to interviewers. Stop asking these people questions about comic book movies for cheap clicks. You would think by all these little Twitter headlines that Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino are basically volunteering this information. They're not going on Twitter and complaining. They're not going on interviews or TV shows and just going out there complaining about comic book movies. It's the interviewers. The interviewers want clicks, they want engagement, they know what's going to draw that. So they ask these people, what do you think of comic book movies? Because they know that there's going to be some sort of a soundbite there. So I blame the interviewers. You're better than that. You have plenty of other questions to ask rather than get cheap thrills out of these quote unquote prestige directors. So, anyway, I'm on the website. What did he say? It says the directors join Coppola and Scorsese in bashing superhero films, but even Marvel lovers might be missing the point. I don't think anyone's missing the point. It's just my opinion. They're jealous because they make prestige movies and no one gives a shit and no one goes to see them, basically. Not that they're not good movies, no one cares about them. So, what did he say? He was asked a question, like I said earlier. He said about comic book movies dominating the box office. I don't love them. When asked about them, no, I don't. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. And I'm paraphrasing. I mean, look, I used to collect comics when I was a kid. There's an aspect if these movies came out when he was in his 20s, he'd be fucking happy and totally love them, which makes sense. I'm almost 60, so I'm not quite as excited about them. See, that makes total sense. Comic book movies, while everyone can enjoy them, they're still made for kids. They're made for kids, and also adults can enjoy them because we were kids once, and some of us have grown up still loving comic books, and that's fine. Quentin Tarantino is 60, and he doesn't like them anymore. Fine. He said his only axe to grind is the only things that seem to be made. They're not even close to the only things that seem to be made. You might think they are because Marvel puts out 4 movies a year, and DC on a good year puts out 3 movies a year. That's 7 movies. Are you trying to tell me that there are less than 7 other movies coming out every year? No. And I understand Disney puts out Disney movies and Pixar puts out Pixar movies. There are hundreds of movies that come out every year. Superhero movies are not even close to the only ones being made. So that doesn't make sense. Are they promoted more? Yes. Why? Because they make 100 times more money. And that's the point. I don't care what kind of movies you make. I watch all kinds of movies. Just because something makes $1 billion doesn't mean I'm going to watch it. And just because something makes $50 million doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it. I'll watch what I like. It all goes down, it all boils down to that. I saw the movie 1918. I loved it. Why did I see it? Because I heard Benedict Cumberbatch was in it. He was in it for a minute. So the thing where they say Marvel actors are not movie stars, well, Benedict Cumberbatch, I feel like, was a star, way before the MCU when he was doing Sherlock and he was doing theater. That might not be fair. I love Benedict Cumberbatch, so I'll see anything he was in. If you just go through, I guess, a list of the actors, Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. Would we have seen Iron Man if he wasn't in it? I don't know. If they made Tom Cruise Iron Man, would we have seen that? If you're watching this, you're saying, of course we would have, because everyone sees Tom Cruise movies. But what about when he did The Mummy? No one went to see that piece of shit. And Tom Cruise was in it. So there's no guarantee that if Tom Cruise was Iron Man, the MCU would have been successful. Okay, going forward, we want Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. So if he's going to say, we're going to see Iron Man, we're not going to the movies to see Robert Downey Jr., I think that's garbage too. Because if you just check Twitter, there is a section of people, and it's mostly, the problematic people, but still, they only want Chris Evans to be Captain America. They don't want Sam Wilson to be Captain America. And they won't go see it because maybe they don't like black people because they're racist. That's terrible, but that section of people will not watch a Captain America movie without Chris Evans. They don't even acknowledge that Sam Wilson is Captain America, Anthony Mackie. They always say it's only Chris Evans. That's because they only like white people. But Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie's characters are not the same Captain America. If you're going to see the new Captain America movie, you're going to see that because Anthony Mackie's in it. Now, Captain America, I think only Civil War made over $1 billion. So I think 1 and 2, I don't know how much they made really. I don't have it up right now. But what if Captain America 4 makes $100 million? That means that people aren't going to see it just because it's a superhero movie and it's Captain America. It doesn't work that way. Ant-Man has Paul Rudd. Are we going to see this movie because it's an Ant-Man movie, or are we going to see this movie because it's Paul Rudd? There are plenty of people who really enjoy Paul Rudd. There are a lot of people that I know that say they would have never seen Ant-Man if Paul Rudd wasn't in it. I think that means Paul Rudd is a movie star. Being a movie star doesn't mean your movie has to make $1 billion. It just means people need to like you enough to want to see the movies you're in. I love Paul Rudd. I'll see anything Paul Rudd is in. Chris Evans, the same thing. I enjoyed him as Captain America. When I saw he was in Knives Out, I really wanted to see that movie. I mean, that movie has a huge cast, but Chris Evans, I really wanted to see it because of him. Scarlett Johansson, not all of her movies make $1 billion, but people go to see her. People love her as Black Widow. I don't think Black Widow would necessarily have been as successful with someone else. Could it have been? Yes. Can't go back. Hindsight is 2020, but I don't think if they put out a new Black Widow with, say, a different character playing Black Widow, like if they brought her back, that it would make as much money as if it were Scarlett Johansson, because people want to see Scarlett Johansson in that role, and people enjoy Scarlett Johansson in other roles. They might not make $1 billion because they're not blockbusters. And I know Ghost in the Shell might be an anomaly, but people didn't go to see that, I don't think, because it was her. I think it was because it was just miscast in general. So people weren't going to watch it regardless of if there was any white actress playing Ghost in the Shell. They probably wouldn't have seen it. It didn't have anything to do, I think, with Scarlett Johansson. Then he goes on to say that they were excited for like Sandra Bullock to see her in something else. I love Sandra Bullock, but are people really going out of their way to see movies with her in it? She's a great actress, but I don't think people are knocking down doors to see her movies because they don't make that much money. What else does he say? He says, we want to see that guy keep playing Wolverine or whatever. Wolverine is Hugh Jackman. You're trying to tell me that Hugh Jackman's not a movie star, that people will only go see Hugh Jackman if he's in Wolverine. That could have been the worst example he could have made because Hugh Jackman is in theater. He's like a classically trained actor. People love his movies. But again, not all of his movies are going to make $1 billion. I saw The Greatest Showman because it had Hugh Jackman and Zendaya. I mean, are they movie stars? To me, they are. Michelle Williams was also in that. I think she's a movie star. She was in Venom. Tom Hardy the same. I feel like some people go to see Tom Hardy movies more than they went to see Venom, in which Tom Hardy is in. And I don't mean like by money amount because Venom, I think it made a billion or close to $1 billion. I'm just saying people are very excited by Tom Hardy movies and not necessarily because he's Venom. Let's see what else we have. He said, back in 2005, if an actor stars in a movie that does as good as the Marvel movies do, then that guy's an absolute star. What movies back in the day were making as much as Marvel movies? Well, let's see. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Basically, it's a superhero movie. Only blockbusters make that much money. What is freaking Tom Cruise in? 30 Mission Impossible movies. He just did a sequel to another franchise. And then, like I said earlier, he headed the Monsterverse franchise and sank it into the ground. But how many people are really going out to see Tom Cruise? You would think if he's such a movie star and people want to see his movies, that they would fanboy him and go see it in droves. But they didn't because it was terrible. And it doesn't matter that it was Tom Cruise. It was a horrible movie. It doesn't matter who was the actor. It probably would have bombed anyway. He said, when Martin Scorsese says that Marvel pictures are not cinema, he's right. Because we expect to learn something from cinema. I don't agree with that. When do we ever go to the movies to learn anything? We're going to the movies to escape, pretty much. And people say that all the time. They said, we need movie theaters open during COVID because we have nowhere to escape. We're not going there to learn. If we wanted to learn, we'd go to school. Like, I don't care if Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola or Quentin Tarantino don't like superhero movies. That's fine with me. Like, it's totally fine. I don't like every movie. But who in, I guess, Quentin Tarantino's movies is the movie star? Who are we going to see? Are you going to see a Quentin Tarantino movie because Samuel L. Jackson is in it? I would say yes. Samuel L. Jackson is a movie star. He was before he was Nick Fury. He will be after. So he is someone I would go see. But how many people go see Quentin Tarantino movies because Quentin Tarantino is directing it? I would say more go for that reason than because of who's in it. Let's see. Martin Scorsese, he casts Leonardo DiCaprio in fucking everything. Is that better or worse than saying a Marvel superhero isn't a movie star? How many of his movies, because of Leonardo DiCaprio, have made $1 billion? Is it worth casting him? Or are we going to see these movies because Martin Scorsese directed it? If you ask my brother, who loves art movies and, prestige directors, he doesn't care who the cast is because he feels like Martin Scorsese can direct anyone into a good movie. He's going because of the director. Same with Quentin Tarantino, I think. And most of these directors who are quote unquote prestige, if Guillermo del Toro makes a movie, I'm going to see it because he's a great director. If someone I never heard of directed the new Pinocchio movie, would I have seen it? Probably not in theaters, but maybe when it was on streaming. But I want to see that movie in the movie theater because Guillermo del Toro is the director. I really don't care who's doing the voices. He makes great movies. I don't know. I'm not trying to make this video for a rant or to sound like I'm mad about this. I'm not mad about people not liking comic book movies. I just get frustrated that they, meaning interviewers from these websites, purposely ask these questions to these directors to get this sort of response, to drive clicks. And I'm guilty. Guilty right here. I would have never made this video if it wasn't for this question being asked. Simi Lou said, if the only gatekeepers to movie stardom came from Tarantino and Scorsese, I would never have had the opportunity to lead a $400 million plus movie. That statement is true, but I don't want to champion Disney as being like the all powerful in representation. They're doing better. They're not great. But he's right. Quentin Tarantino, off the top of my head, How many non-white leads has he had in his movies? I don't know, but I've seen some of them, and most of them are white. Martin Scorsese, it's always Leonardo DiCaprio. Are the majority of his leading men non-white? They're always. It seems like they're always leading men and not women. But I'm just saying in general, Simu is correct. He is fairly new. He was in TV shows, but Disney slash Marvel did give him an opportunity to lead a movie, though it was Shang-Chi, so it had to be an Asian lead, but they made the movie. So I see what he means by that. It's a little bit of a loaded statement maybe, but technically he's right. But I've seen some people argue that he was in a stereotypical movie, so which one is it? They also say he's lamenting a lost era in which I don't know what this word is. Cineastas went to see the latest Cary Grant or Tom Cruise movie. And I go back to Tom Cruise. People like him, yeah, he's a good actor, but he's making franchises. He also makes franchises, and one that if you want to use Tom Cruise as an example, The Mummy flopped miserably. So bad example. But again, I don't know how many people go to see a movie just because he's in it. Do do we see Mission Impossible because it's Tom Cruise? The reason I would give to yes is because him doing his own stunts has taken on basically a persona of its own, and that's what we want to see. We want to see what crazy shit he does in the movie. So, in that sense, I guess yes, we're going to see Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise. Again, remarking that Marvel actors are not really movie stars is an almost stereotypical Tarantino-esque thing to say. He's lamenting the very loss of a system that has given him so much. Blah, blah, blah. Yet in the superhero milieu, there's nothing for him to grab hold of, nothing to steal, because the stars here are the comic book characters that fans have known and loved for decades, not those who portray them. I don't know if they brought these characters back, like Iron Man, that people would go see it if it wasn't Robert Downey Jr. Meaning, the last Iron Man 3, made a billion. I think it was the first Iron Man to make over $1 billion. And then I believe every other movie that Robert Downey Jr. was in as Iron Man made over $1 billion. So if you took someone new and said, hey, we're bringing Tony Stark back, but this time it's not Robert Downey Jr., will that movie make as much as it would have with Robert Downey Jr. just because it's Iron Man? I don't think it would. This video is a lot longer than I had hoped it would be. I just wanted to give my 2 cents because I get frustrated, again, not at the directors. I'm not mad at Quentin Tarantino. I get angry at the people asking them the questions to get these reactions out of them. So it seems like they're voluntarily shitting on comic book movies. They could say all they want, how it's ruining cinema or it's ruining this and ruining that. But in reality, we all know that blockbusters, not just now, for all time, blockbusters have brought in the revenue, keep a lot of theaters open. And for that, we should be thanking Marvel, because if it was as easy as just creating a superhero movie, DC wouldn't be having the problems that they have been having. And this isn't a quality of if you like their movies or not. This is simply the fact of how to run a studio to create a cinematic universe that constantly makes money the way you expect it to. Because Universal wanted, and I'm going back again, Universal wanted to create the MonsterVerse. They're like, oh, Marvel is making all these movies. They make so much money. How about we start a MonsterVerse, Monster Cinematic Universe, get all of these great actors, again, movie stars, play these characters, and then we can make billions so we could fund some smaller movies. They throw Tom Cruise in, nothing. The smart thing they did do is a couple of years later when they did The Invisible Man, they scrapped the whole Johnny Depp as like the stereotypical monster and made it like a real world Invisible Man. That was a great idea. And I like Johnny Depp as an actor. I'll go see whatever he's in. But for this franchise, I guess, I don't even know if it's going to be a franchise now. The Invisible Man was better suited the way they did it rather than having Johnny Depp play the stereotypical Invisible Man. That's all I have to say. In my mind, I think any actor that is popular is a movie star because that's all it really is popularity. You really like somebody, you're going to go see them regardless of what they're in. And I do have to say this regarding Robert Downey Jr. I know a lot of people bring up Doolittle and they're like, oh, well, if Robert Downey Jr. was a movie star, why didn't Doolittle make $1 billion? In what world do you think Doolittle would have made $1 billion? First of all, it's really, I know it's a kid's movie, but I don't think, and I hate saying who wants that movie because that really bothers me when people are like, nobody asked for this. But Dr. Doolittle, when you look at it, the kids' movie, where in 2022, kids who are like 10, 11, 12 were born in the 2000s. In like 2010, they'd be 12. Do you think a kid born in 2012 cares about Dr. Doolittle? This always brings me back to my Disneyland thoughts regarding their rides and attractions. Adults always complain when something gets updated to an IP, like Tower of Terror and Disneyland. And this is my whole point. I don't know how I got here on this tangent, but a child today, 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, 8 years old, they walk into Disneyland. One ride is the Tower of Terror. The other ride is exactly the same. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. You ask that kid, do you want to go on the Tower of Terror ride, the Twilight Zone ride, or do you want to go on the Marvel movie Guardians of the Galaxy ride? That kid is not choosing Twilight Zone. He doesn't care. The adults, not me, I don't give a shit about the Twilight Zone either. They care. And that's what it's all about. It's who this movie is geared to first, and then who is in it. It's a children's movie. You want to bring your kids to it. Am I, as an adult with no kids, going to go see a children's movie because Robert Downey Jr. is in it? Probably not. But if they make Sherlock Holmes 3 and Robert Downey Jr. is not in it, I'm probably not going to go see it. I want to see Robert Downey Jr. in Sherlock Holmes 3. I don't know how I got here. I went off on a tangent. This is about 24 minutes. No one's going to watch this video. I just wanted to post some thoughts verbally, and this kind of turned into mishmash, but I hope you got my point. Anyone can have an opinion about anything. You don't need to like superhero movies. You don't need to hate superhero movies. But if you hate them, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But if you like it, that's fine as well. We're all here to enjoy these movies, go to the theater to get away from what's going on in our lives and just shut our brains off for 2 hours and watch a movie. Or as Quentin Tarantino seems to think, we need to go to the movies to learn something like we're going to a lecture. That's all I got. Let me know what you think below. I know some of my videos have gotten more views than others. I'm kind of hoping this gets a good amount of views, but I feel like I'm going to get flamed in the comments, which is fine. I just want to know what you think about it. And if you agree with me that you don't hate Quentin Tarantino as much as you just hate the interviewers asking the questions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thank you for liking and subscribing. So keep liking and subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Also, if you're on Instagram or Twitter, find me at Screen Sanctum, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, guys.